And I have to start off with a question.
Mm-hmm.
You're chasing 70.
Yes.
Given that you're from Australia, doesn't that sound very hot to you? Shouldn't you be chasing 21?
Do you love to travel?
Do you love road trips?
Do you love finding hidden treasures in towns all over the USA? Hi, I'm Joshua.
And I'm Craig. Welcome to Treasures of Our Town. It's the podcast that explores unique and charming towns scattered throughout the United States.
Guided by our love for location-based games like geocaching. Join us as we venture to some of the country's most intriguing destinations, uncovering hidden gems and local secrets along the way.
On today's episode, Josh, we have a very special returning guest from over a year ago, and he has been given a very, very special travel challenge,
Yes.
Josh.
Ooh,
And
that's so intriguing.
It really is. And I will say this, he gave himself the travel challenge too. So it wasn't just us. It wasn't our idea. It was actually his idea, mate. That's his idea. And you will hear his beautiful, beautiful voice and dulcet tones very, very soon coming up. So, yes. Although, Josh, if you click on this and listen to the show, you've already seen who it is by reading the
This is
headline.
true.
So
it is one of our favorite guests we've had on this whole show, and that is Jeff Wagg.
Yes.
We've actually had people contact us and say, hey, can you bring Jeff Wagg back?
Exactly.
So Jeff has fans out there, and they want to hear him on this podcast.
And Jeff, he has his own podcast as well called Built to Go, a van life podcast. And I even say it, I start to say it like him because I listen to it every single week as well for him. So I start to say it like him too. So you'll hear him say his own a van life podcast. Exactly the same, Josh. But anyway, Jeff Wagg, he's going to be on it very, very soon. Meanwhile, before we get him on, Josh, what have you been up to, mate? We've got to do our delays and our upgrades.
Yeah, we have to do our delays and upgrades.
Yes.
Well, I just had my delay just now as I couldn't get my headphones to work. And the reason why is because the headphones I've been using, get this, this is travel related, are the ones that Delta Airlines gives you to watch the movies.
Joshua.
They're literally worth like probably 3 cents.
Joshua Johnson.
I know.
Why?
I know.
And now you've got a really nice set of headphones too, very professional looking. And you said that they're your headphones too that you're wearing.
I know.
Right
I should have been using them the whole time.
I've never seen them on you. We've been doing this show for over 2 years now. I've never seen them on you. But anyway.
Okay. Here's my real delay.
Yes. What's your real delay?
Did you know that last Saturday, which was April 12th, was Record Store Day? Did you know this?
No. There's always a day for every day. I didn't know there was Record Store Day. Did you do Record Store Day?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever talked about this. In addition to like geocaching and all the things we do, I love collecting vinyl records.
Oh,
did you know? You didn't even know that. You've learned something new about me today, Craig.
I knew that, Josh. I've been to your house. I've seen all your records.
Oh,
I've
that's
seen
right.
your record player.
That's
you
right.
do not have. So if people don't understand as well, Joshua Johnson, he sits there in his lounge room with no television, not 1 ounce of television in his lounge room at all, but a record player on a really old school, beautiful, like dinette sort of area or whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called. Like something sits up against the wall, and then he's got all his records all lined up, all his vinyls lined up, and you've even got a holder for the album cover the record that's playing on the wall too. So,
yeah, that's right.
See,
you have such a great memory.
You think I don't? You think I don't actually go through your whole place while I was there? Absolutely, I did.
That's really creepy. That's really creepy, Craig.
Anyway,
but here it is.
Talk about the
It's actually
record day.
it's actually my delay because I had to get in line to get the records I want. So the deal with Record Store Day is to support local record stores, which are kind of like. Well, they've having a reemergence of popularity, but it used to be kind of a dying breed when vinyl was not cool. But vinyl's cool again.
Yeah, it is.
Even young people are collecting it.
Yeah.
So on Record Store Day, they have exclusive vinyl records that come out just for that day, and they have limited quantities.
Wow.
So people line up at the record store. I lined up at 2.5 hours before the place opened up.
Really
excited to get it was a certain record I wanted, and I got up there, and the store only had 2 copies. And guess what? I was the third person. Didn't get it.
Oh no, that is definitely a delay. You missed out. So it's like when you're a kid, Josh, and you lined up all those times for that brand new toy for Christmas, and your parents went, "Oh, they've ran out beforehand."
Yep.
So
the Cabbage Patches are dolls.
Was there any punches thrown? Was there any punches
What?
thrown? Was there any punches thrown?
No.
Very
everybody's
subdued,
very polite.
Very polite.
Yeah. It was actually a lot of fun. You don't know who you're going to stand in line next to, and I met some new friends. It was actually a lot of fun. So it wasn't a really bad delay. Craig,
yes.
What's your delay? It's
still the same. It's still my ankle. It's still in pain. I still dress it every single day as well. I still get stabbing pain in my actual heel now rather than the ankle itself. So mind you, in saying that, I can't complain too much because our guest today as well, he's still held up after his ankle surgery that he has had.
Whoa.
So we'll ask you about that very, very soon.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Josh, my upgrade, I'm going to concentrate more on the upgrade because it's much nicer. And that is, I'm just chilling at the moment in good old sweet home Alabama, chasing the 70, as they say, Josh.
Wait, you went back south. You went south again because you were in Missouri.
Yeah, exactly. I was up in
Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas, Missouri. Then I came down and St. Louis, etc. And then I came straight down south back to good old sweet home Alabama for a little bit, and then I'll head back up to St. Louis in a couple of weeks' time to pick up our good friend Rob, the president of Muncie in St. Louis, to go to Uranus, Josh.
Yeah.
I've been to Uranus a few times.
Who's in it? Oh, Uranus.
Uranus, yeah. I've been there a few times. So exactly.
I'm sure.
So that's coming up. But meanwhile,
I'm sure
Josh,
Jeff has been to Uranus.
Oh, yeah. Jeff's been everywhere, man. And we can ask him that as well. So exactly right. What have you been your upgrade? You didn't say your upgrade, though.
I don't talk about my day job very much.
No, you don't.
On this podcast because, I talk about my geocaching and stuff like that. But I'm a speaker for young people. And today I hung out with 60 juniors and seniors in high school, and I talked about the importance of living your life with purpose. And, a lot of people, they look at the youth and they're like, oh, there's not a lot of hope for the youth. And let me tell you, hang out with me for a day and you will be so impressed with these young people and how amazing they were. And it was one of those days where you wake up and that was a great day spent. So really, really great day with about 60 juniors and seniors talking about stuff that actually matters.
Molding the lives of future American leaders, Joshua. Good job.
I'm trying.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Very cool. Very cool. All right, Josh, should we get into our guest?
Yes, I'm so excited to talk to Jeff Wagg.
Do you want to do the introduction, Josh?
No, you should, because you're like a super fan of his. You listen to his podcast every week.
I'm fanboying.
You should do it.
I'm fanboying. Yeah. All right, no further delay. Here is the man himself, Jeff Wagg from Built to Go. Jeff, g'day, mate. How are you, buddy?
Well, I'm well. Well, I'm mostly well. But thank you for having me once again. And I have to start off with a question. You're chasing 70. Yes. Given that you're from Australia, doesn't that sound very hot to you? Shouldn't you be chasing 21?
This is true.
Oh, look at this. He's done his research as well. He knows, although Jeff does, he's very, very astute because he does do international travel as well, don't you, Jeff? So you do know the Celsius and Fahrenheit conversions. I know it quite well too, so it's quite easy to do in your head now, but I still don't do the whole metric conversions with the distances with miles versus that's still too hard for me. So I don't do that. But yeah, chasing 70 for me is it's the common term here. So I use the common terms.
Craig, you're chasing 70.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about the weather on this podcast, but now it's too late. Guess what it was here in Minnesota today? Where I am right now, guess what the temperature was? 72. It was 72. Why are you not up here?
Well, I wonder. You're busy molding the people of the future Americans.
That's true.
You don't have time for me, so
I don't have time.
I'll come down south where people have got time for me.
That's true.
Just for the record, here it was not 72 in Chicago today. It was
really
45.
Oh wow, yeah. It's coming for you. You're gonna get some warm weather. It's coming your way.
You need it.
Meanwhile, Jeff, what have you been up to, mate? As I said before, you've got an ankle injury. What happened? Tell everyone about it.
So I took a bunch of people to different parts of Europe in November in a big wet van, as I say, on a river cruise. And that's a lot of walking and a lot of cobblestones. And when I got back, I found that I was not recovering. Basically, I was losing the ability to walk. So I went in and they found a torn piece of cartilage from twisting my ankle at the City Museum in Missouri, which is a place that people should pay attention to. And that cartilage had turned to bone, so I actually had a little piece of bone in my ankle, and they had to go in and slice and dice and cut it out. So I have been laid up since January 27th, and I'm just learning how to walk again.
Oh, wow.
And I have not been in my van since January 25th at 4:31 p.m. and 10 seconds.
Wow.
And I've got a little jonesing problem. I'm a little and I went to see my van last weekend, and I drove all the way from Chicago to LaSalle County, Illinois, and because of traffic it took 2.5 hours, and I pulled up and there was my van, and it was still there, and no one had messed with it all winter long, and it was beautiful. And I got out and I had left the keys in Chicago, and couldn't get into my van, and I thought, surely there's a way to break into a 2011 Mercedes Sprinter. And then I was like, I could just break the window. And I was like, what are you talking about? You can't break the window of your own van. And then I thought I should go get the keys. It was a 5-hour round trip. And so, I drove away and I left my van there, and I'm going to try again this weekend. But I have an issue right now.
Wow.
Let's just say that.
And there are, Josh, there are a few actual listeners of our listeners as well, and that they went over to Jeff after listening to him on our podcast, over 12 months ago. Nancy being one of them, Tivia, she was one of them as well. She listens all the time. She's also a part-time van lifer as well.
Oh, welcome, Nancy.
Yes, yeah, and she's actually laid up again with a knee surgery recently too. So,
and I'm very sorry to hear that you're having these ankle issues because, I know this isn't a van life podcast, but van life is very adaptable, and you can adapt to things like this. And the whole time I'm laid up with my ankle, I'm thinking, if I were in my van, I could cook, I could do everything because I'm in my van. But when you're not set up like that and you have an injury, then your whole life is like you can see it, but you can't do it. So I have a lot of sympathy for you and your current struggles. I hope they end soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I have adapted quite well. And as you said, everything is almost in arm's reach anyway when you live in a van, and you know where everything is. I cook for myself. I, clean everything else as well. I've got my fridge. I've got my stove. I've got my everything in the van. And most afternoons I'll get to my spot early in the afternoons now, and I'll get in because I've got a swivel seat in the passenger seat too. So I'll swivel the passenger seat around, and I put my foot up. And raise it, and maybe some ice as well. And every single afternoon I do that, and it seems to just relax everything, including my own mind as well. So, yes, that's important. Exactly. So that's the van life stuff. That's what's been happening there. But let's get back now, Jeff, to first of all, your Built to Go van life. Apart from you being laid up, what else is happening with your podcast, man?
Well, the podcast is doing great. I have my international listenership is growing quite a bit. And to be clear, I'm not doing any marketing. I'm a guy with a van who wanted to listen to a podcast while he was working on his van, and I couldn't find one that was in the style I wanted, so I just made it. That's it. And I do it, and people listen, and as long as they listen, I'll keep doing it. And so, things have been interesting. And I've been having a problem lately because people ask me to put in a news segment. So I need a little van life news in there. And the news is difficult right now. Let's just say that. And I will put in bad news stories if they're appropriate, but I don't want them all to be bad news stories. So I reached out to the listeners and said, help. I need you guys to find me good news. And they did. This week I actually was able to put in several good news stories. So I was really appreciative of that. But right now, I am so eager to get back on the road. And I have so much travel planned this year. It's ridiculous. And I don't even know how I'm going to fit it all in. So we'll see.
Very good, very good. Josh, do you want to tell everyone as well, all the listeners now, what this show actually today is about? Like, Jeff said, it was Jeff's idea, and then you picked the places too. What's going on, Josh?
Well, we wanted to give you guys some opportunity to research some amazing places that you may want to travel in the future. So Jeff reached out to us, and he goes, challenge me.
Yes.
And he's like, find what you believe are 3 of the most boring places in the United States. Just give them to me. Just lay them on me. Yep. And I will tell you why they're not necessarily boring. Or maybe we will find out that they actually are boring. I don't know.
We'll soon see. Well, Josh, you picked the 3 of them out.
I did.
You picked the 3 of them out. So just to let everyone know, we've got 1 in Minnesota, we've got 1 in New Hampshire, and we've got 1 in Oregon. So they're the 3 different states, and we'll talk about exactly each one very, very soon. Shall we just jump into the first one? What do you think?
Sure. Let's jump into the first one. The first one is in my home state. And Fun fact, I've been there. Fun fact, I've slept overnight there.
Ooh.
Okay.
You're the one.
The one, yes.
The only person ever.
I know. So Bagley, Minnesota. It is in northwestern Minnesota, and let me tell you, there's not a lot up there. And the reason I went through there, in case you're curious, is that long ago when I was actually a youth minister long ago, and we took a bike trip from the top of Minnesota, from Canada, all the way down to the Twin Cities with about 20 teenagers. And Bagley was one of the stops where we camped overnight. So all I know about Bagley is there's a lake and there's a campground. That's all I know. Jeff, you're gonna have to tell us more, because it was fine. It was fine, but yep, there was a lake and there was a campground. Tell us about Bagley, Jeff.
I will
inspire us. Get us excited about visiting Bagley.
So, of the 3 places you gave me, this one is of this. Well, I'm ranking them from hard to easy. This one was the medium one.
Okay,
it wasn't exactly easy, but it wasn't that hard either. The campground you probably stayed at was the Bagley City Park and Campground, which is a beautiful campground right on Lake Lomond, which was named after Loch Lomond in Scotland. And it is well known for its fishing. It's also occasionally home to loons, which will be a theme here in a moment. But yes, that alone to me makes the place interesting, because if you've never encountered loons, especially while camping, it is one of the most eerie, creepy, weird things in the world. They make this sound, and hello, Mr. Editor, if you would like to put in the sound of a loon call, should I at this moment.
Should I try? Oh, I mean, I'm from Minnesota. Okay.
That's not bad. Yep,
kind of like that.
There you go. You don't need the sound effect anymore. We have it. But imagine that at 4 a.m. and echoing across the lake really loud. And if you ever get up close to one of these birds, they're really weird. Most birds have hollow bones so they can fly better, but loons don't. They're one of the few birds that has a solid bone structure. So it's incredibly hard for them to take off. And they actually need a runway. So if you watch a loon take off, it'll start at one end of the lake and just kind of paddle as fast as it can until it can get up enough speed to slowly climb into the air like an overladen 747, and then it's okay. So they're very cool, very strange birds with bright red eyes. Ooh. And to me, that alone is enough reason to visit Bagley. But wait, there's more. Bagley was founded in 1898, and it was named after the Duke of Clearwater. And Clearwater is the county. And the Duke of Clearwater was a man by the name of S.C. Bagley. And as you might guess, he was a timber baron, because this is the woodsy, or formerly woodsy, part of Minnesota. They did, after all, cut down a lot of the trees. Most of them have grown back now. And it's also the South Dakota part of Minnesota. So
pretty much.
Yeah, it's, I found a lot of references to Sisseton in Bagley, and Sisseton is in South Dakota. It means land of the fish scales. That's a whole other story. However, Bagley itself is fascinating in its history, because S.C. Bagley, who the town was named after, hated being called the Duke of Clearwater. Therefore, everybody called him that even more. And do you know how a place gets its name? Like, there's a formal, actual way a place gets its name in most cases. Do you know what that is?
No.
I mean, somebody votes on it, or somebody goes there and go, I declare thee Bagley, like that.
That definitely happens at one point.
Okay.
But the name of record that we use today comes from the post office.
Oh.
And that is why there's a lot of confusion in old place names, because a lot of towns had to change their name when the post office was made, because, we already have a Lincoln, Illinois, and you're one of 17 of them. So why don't we choose a name that's unique? And they didn't have zip codes back then. So Bagley really didn't have that problem. There weren't that many people living there. So in 1898, when they decided to make it a town, they did so. And they just named it after the richest man in town, which was fairly common. However, what happened in 1898 that made them want to make a town? And this is an answer that applies to many, many, many towns in the U.S., and that is...
The railroad?
You got it. The railroad came.
I was right.
The railroad came.
Wow.
So nowadays we think of interstates as being the thing that makes a town a place, right? So if the interstate goes to your town, you're great. And if it misses your town, well, over my shoulder here, I have a Route 66 sign, and you can see what happens there. Route 66 dried up because I-40 replaced most of it, and people just whizzed on by. Mm-hmm. Now, there's still a lot of nostalgia there, but Bagley was one of the lucky ones. The train went there, and that's why basically there's still a town there. Now, they have the longest used prison in the state of Minnesota in Bagley, and it is a tourist attraction now.
Wait, say that again. The longest
used prison, or, well, I mean, jail.
Yes.
It's certainly not a penitentiary.
Okay.
It's a few cells. They were built in 1905, and they were used until 1998. And you can imagine what something built in 1905 to hold prisoners would be like in 1998.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, that's the thing you can visit, and, hopefully for just a short while. Yeah, so that's a thing. They have an awesome cabin you can rent. It's on Airbnb. It's called Farm by the Lake. It's a wooden cabin right on the lake with water sports stuff and everything you need, and it's open 24/7 all year round, so you can do your winter sports there. Because Lake Lomond, you can do ice fishing, you can do snowmobiling, cross-country skiing, all that stuff. So did I happen to mention this place is beautiful? I mean, most of Minnesota is beautiful, but this place is definitely, you're right on the lake with the trees, and it's absolutely a gorgeous place to go. Another reason you might want to go there is because it is on the edge of the White Earth Nation Reservation, which is home to the Shooting Star Casino.
Oh, yes.
So, hey, at one time, this was the gambling hub of Minnesota. Gambling's a little bit more loose and available now, but at one time, that would have been a reason you would have gone to Bagley. And there's two other interesting things. One of them is there's a legend in Bagley, and it's the legend of Green Jenny.
Green
Jenny. Green Jenny is the spirit of a girl who drowned in a creek that led to Lake Lomond. Now she wants company. So she comes out of the reeds and algae and grasses and will invite young girls to join her in the lake. Maybe by force. That's a rumor I've heard. And then there shall be more Green Jennies and Gales and Abbies and all these other people. Anyway, it is a truth that if there is a body of water anywhere in the United States, there are legends or monsters. You have to have one. You can have both, but there's got to be one or the other. And Lake Lomond does not let us down. The other thing is this Bagley classroom, and this might appeal to you, Josh.
Okay.
They built an outdoor classroom that seats 40. That's kind of like an amphitheater right on the lake, and they do all kinds of lectures and things out there in the wilderness, basically. I mean, it's in the town, but you're in trees, and the lake is right there. And the idea is that you will be educated not only by the lecturer, but also by your environment. And that's a cool thing. So with all that, this little town, population 1,305, that really isn't a growing concern in any way. It's certainly not Minneapolis. It's a pretty cool place. And if I'm up there again, I will certainly drive by and, maybe throw a few dollars in the casino. Oh, and by the way, this, I will stop after this, I promise. The White Earth Nation is famous for growing wild rice.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
and
so good.
They do grow that in Lake Lomond and in environs. Their reservation's quite large. But yes, wild rice. And if you're not familiar with what wild rice is, listener, wild rice has nothing at all to do with rice.
No.
It is a substitute for rice, but it's basically the seeds of a grass that's native to North America.
Oh. And it's grass that grows in like marshlands. It grows in the water. And if you've never had chicken and wild rice soup, it's so good. Here in Minnesota, we have wild rice burgers. I mean, it's delicious. It is so good.
It's definitely a Minnesota thing, but it is really good, and it's actually better for you than white rice. And the reason they call it that is it kind of sort of looks like rice, but it also grows in the water, which is a rice thing. So that is Bagley, Minnesota.
Wow.
And I didn't have to dig deep for that. That was fairly easy because it's a cool place.
So this is a podcast guided by geocaching. I'm going to have you guys guess. I'm going to pull up the map. I'm going to pull up the map for all of these. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
How many how many geocaches would you guess are in Bagley proper?
I'm going to
not outside, but actually in town.
I'm going to say 5.
I'm going to say 15.
Okay. The answer is 3.
Ooh, 3.
I'm way off.
3.
However, get this, Jeff. 2 of them are in the city park that you mentioned. The very first thing you mentioned, the place that I slept.
Yep.
And then the other one is on get this. This is cool. So if you're looking for adventure, the other one is on Lake Lomond on an island. And it's called Lake Lomond Kayak Island Adventure.
So that's
you get in a kayak and you go to this island and you find a geocache and you wave to the beautiful loons.
And to Green Jenny as she tries to flip your kayak.
Yeah, you have that problem too.
Let's stay away from Green Jenny. It's kind of
but if you're a listener out there and you know a little bit about geocaching but not as much, probably the reason why as well is that there's not actually a geocacher player in that town, because in order to hide a cache you have to be in a certain vicinity in order to keep up maintenance. So you can't hide a cache as you're passing through a town, for instance, unless it's a virtual or a earth cache. That's the only 2. So, and they're 3 traditionals, are they, Josh? Just traditionals?
There is 1 multi and 2 traditionals.
Oh, nice. Oh, well, that's worth it then. Well, that's worth it too. So, and if you're into the paranormal by the sounds of it too, because I do watch a few paranormal stuff, YouTube stuff as well too. So van life and paranormal sometimes go hand in hand for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, I wasn't going to mention this, but nearby to Bagley, there's the haunted 100-acre woods.
Oh,
which some TikTokers have been presenting as a real thing, but it's actually a Halloween attraction where you go into the woods and stuff jumps at you and stuff. So,
right.
I'm sure Josh can attest to this. If you've been in the Minnesota woods at night alone, you really don't need any paranormal stuff.
I know.
You can go to the Ojibwa traditions of the Wendigo or the Wendigo, however you want to say it, and stuff like that. That's where that stuff is from.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's creepy enough.
When you're camping up there, you hear stuff. I mean, you hear the bear situation. It freaks me out. It's wild. Literally, it's wild.
It's wild.
Oh, jeez.
And can I say one more thing before we move on from Bagley? Is Jeff, I'm so glad you started with our state bird, the common loon, because they are the most fascinating birds.
They really are.
And each, we have 10,000 lakes, which actually we have way more than that.
Yeah, you do.
And get this, Craig, every lake, almost every lake just has 2 loons. It's like their lake.
Really?
It's fascinating. A male and a female, and 2 of them. And that's it.
What happens when they breed? Where do they go?
Well, the babies all show up. Yeah, the babies show up, and then they fly and find another lake.
And find another lake. So if there's 10,000 lakes, that means there's 20,000 loons. That's it. There can't be any more loons than 20,000 loons.
Some tough math there.
Well, here's the thing. Right? A lot of baby loons don't make it because the eagles will swoop down and they will get the babies.
Yeah. No, that's
well. And if you've ever been to an airport, there's like one plane on the runway at a time. I think it's similar to that with these loons, because if there were several loons on the lake, they'd be smashing into each other as they were trying to take off.
Yeah, they got little landing lights and everything on the lake.
Their eyes.
I like it. Jeff, we're going to go to the next one now, mate. Okay. But you choose which one. Josh, that was the medium one. So do we want to go for the hard one, or we want to go for the easy one next?
Well, let's just go down, and then maybe when he's done explaining it and convincing us that it's not a boring place, we could decide if that was the hard one,
easy or hard one.
Easy or hard one.
That
makes sense. In that case, then we're going to go to New Hampshire, and this time I wonder how this name was made, and it's in Sandwich, New Hampshire.
Yes.
Sandwich.
I like the name. Yeah, I like the name. I had to.
Okay.
I had to pick it for the name. I'm really curious about the name. I've not done any research on this. So, Jeff, that's your job.
Yeah. So as it happens, you picked a place that's my home. I grew up in that area. I grew up in Salem, Massachusetts, but Salem, Massachusetts considers New Hampshire we would say New Hampshire. So actually, Craig is not far off of the pronunciation that we would use. Which is, I used to have the Boston accent. I've messed it up now. But we would call it New Hampshire, or we would call it Cow Hampshire, because growing up in the 70s, that's all that was up there. Like if you saw cows, you were like, oh, we crossed the border into New Hampshire. But that said, it was our summer playground. And I can't say the word on the podcast because I believe you do not have an explicit tag.
Yeah, we don't.
But the first word is Mass, relating to Massachusetts. And the second word is if you take a shovel and dig in the ground. And if you put those two together, that's who we were from Massachusetts coming up to New Hampshire in the summers. Mm-hmm. So we spent a lot of time there. And I did summer camp up there and everything. However, Sandwich is fascinating because it has a direct relationship to Hawaii. What? Not only Hawaii, it has a direct relationship to a number of islands in the deep South Atlantic just north of the Antarctic Circle. And do you know what that connection is?
Mm-mm. Everyone eats sandwiches? I don't know.
You're closer than you might think.
Oh, really? Wow. Is it the Spam? Is it the Spam?
You can put Spam on your sandwich. This is a good point. But no, it's actually far longer than that. Because when Hawaii was, quote unquote, discovered by Captain Cook, he owed a favor to the Lord of the Admiralty in England. And that was Lord Sandwich.
Yes.
And this man supposedly invented the actual sandwich. The legend is that there was some leftover meat and he just wanted lunch, and he asked his butler or someone to just bring me a couple pieces of bread to put that on there. And that's where the sandwich came from, apparently. Who knows? However, Sandwich, Mass. Not Sandwich, Mass. Sorry, wrong story. That's a different story. Sandwich, New Hampshire. I happen to be going to Sandwich, Mass in a few months. That's why it's in my head. Mm-hmm. Sandwich, New Hampshire is actually named for the same reason that the Cook Islands. I hope you guys can edit this. The Sandwich Islands, which later became the Hawaiian Islands. Mm-hmm. Actually, they were the Hawaiian Islands first, and then they were renamed the Sandwich Islands, and then they became the Hawaiian Islands again when we came to our senses. Named after the same person. Lord's 4th Earl of Sandwich, I think, was his official title, and he was the Lord of the Admiralty, and that's why people owed him allegiance. Now, you probably realize that Captain Cook did not visit New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. So what's going on there? Well, they were cutting up land and giving it out willy-nilly, and if you've ever been to New England, you realize it's named like Old England. A lot of the places in New England have their counterparts in England, and Sandwich, New Hampshire was basically given to the Sandwiches, the lords of the Sandwich, the Earl of Sandwiches, and it was just big, useless piece of land. And they just said, here it is. And it's one of the biggest parcels in New Hampshire given to somebody like that. The weird thing is, if you look at a picture of the city and its drawing of the city, like the outline of the city on a map, it's shaped like a sandwich. Oh. It's shaped like a sandwich with like a bite taken out of it. And it's just a coincidence, but it's a little weird.
Yes.
So there's that going for it. But actually, there's a ton going on here. I was so excited to see this because this is, first off, it's absolutely beautiful. Nothing against Minnesota. I love Minnesota. But New England is where I'm from. It is home to me. And one of the things I love about New England is its biodiversity. These woods in New Hampshire, when you go through this part, you are surrounded not by, as in the Pacific Northwest, you're surrounded by 600 Douglas firs and a couple of redwoods. No, you have 300 different species of trees all around you. There's beech and hornbeam and oak and birch and elderberry and on and on and on and on. And growing up as a kid, I learned all these tree identifications. And then as I traveled around the country, I was like, what is up with these forests everywhere? There's nothing in here except one species. And that's actually true. It's how the country's natural history formed. So New England has an incredible amount of biodiversity, especially in this area, because it's far enough south not to get up into the colder regions that kill off a lot of species. Like Vermont doesn't have quite the biodiversity that New Hampshire does. That said, the big thing in Sandwich that everyone goes there for, because it's a tourist attraction, is Squam Lake, Squam Lake. And if you're a movie buff, you have probably seen Squam Lake because it is where they filmed On Golden Pond, which is a 1981 movie with Jane and Henry Fonda. And I was actually
Dabney Coleman too.
Yeah, a whole bunch of famous folks. Weirdly, I was camping on the lake next door, which is Lake Winnipesaukee, which is the biggest lake, and that huge tourist area, Lake Winnipesaukee. And some of the people that I was camping with went on a field trip and actually bumped into Jane Fonda as she was filming this movie.
Wow.
That's how old I am. However, Squam Lake is a huge, huge tourist attraction. So this place, even though its population is only 1,466 people, if you go there on, say, July 4th, there's 10,000 people there. It's quite popular. Now, all that said, what else would you go there to see? I mean, okay, there's water, there's woods, there's camping and stuff. Well, it has a little bit of an interesting history. There have been some famous people from this tiny little place that no one's heard of unless you're from New England. One of them was John Wentworth, who was the mayor of Chicago in the late 1800s. I've never heard of him, and I live in Chicago, but he's supposedly a famous person. The more famous person is Claude Rains. Who's Claude Rains? Well, if you're a movie buff, you know that he was in the movie Casablanca, and he is the cop who said, round up the usual suspects. That guy, who's supposed to be French, is from Sandwich, New Hampshire.
Wow.
It gets a little weirder than that, though. There's somebody else who's there, and do you guys know the show That's Incredible?
I've heard of it.
Okay, so you guys are a little younger. All right, you're a bit younger than me. But That's Incredible was a big show that was on in the 80s and late 70s, and it was just incredible stuff. It was a magazine-style show where this week on That's Incredible, we'll have a dolphin who can sing baritone, and here's a man who can drink an entire 2 quarts of beer in one gulp. That was actually a real thing. And they would just do this stuff on the show. And the host of that show was a man by the name of John Davidson, who was also the host of the $100,000 Pyramid, which was a big game show in the 70s. And he was in Edward Scissorhands, of all things. That guy's still alive. He's 83 years old, and he bought an old barn in Sandwich, and he filled it up with couches and a stage. And he's like, hey, 7 o'clock, everyone bring some food and beer, and we're going to do stuff on the stage. And it's called Club Sandwich. He's been doing it for years. You just go and you hang out with this TV star guy.
Wow.
Sadly, this is his last year. He just announced he's turning 83. He's old. He's sick of it. So if you want to do that, this is your summer. You can go to the website. Just look up Club Sandwich. You'll find it.
Wow.
Go to the website, and you can actually just go and sit on an old couch and have some live That's Incredible. And he's also a musician too, but as many of these musicians go, his career went other directions. But anyway, there's that. There's also the Chapman Sanctuary in Visny Woods, Visny, Visny, and that is just a beautiful recreation area with lots of hiking, and you can do it in the winter. You can do it in the summer. It's famous for its bird watching. This is a migratory route through there, like much of Minnesota, and it's wonderful. Now, they also have the Sandwich Fair, which was a fair that had been going on since 1887. Apparently in 1886, somebody had a lot of cows, and they were like, I want to show my cows off. And some guy just brought all his cows out, and people came and looked, that's a nice cow you got there. And then that became a tradition, and that's been going on since 1887. So it's a whole fair. Nothing like the Minnesota State Fair, which I went to and it scared me because there were so many people. Nothing like that, but a very quaint, nice, quiet little New England fair where there's crafts and things. And that is a really nice thing. And that is in October. And why that matters is because the first week in October is the peak foliage season in New England.
Oh, yes.
Lots of places have pretty foliage in the fall, but remember that biodiversity I mentioned? That's what makes New England the best place on earth for fall foliage, because there are so many different colors mixed together. You don't, if you go to, say, Utah in the fall, you get these big swaths of yellow because the aspens are turning. And if you go to the Pacific Northwest, it doesn't change because all they really have is conifers. But New England, you get, I used to call it, there's this one spot in Vermont I'd drive through, and it looked like you were driving into a bowl of Fruit Loops. And Squam Lake will offer you that. So you can go to the fair and you can just be surrounded by color. And this was the easy one. I'm sorry. It's obvious now. You guys know this is the easy one. But it's a really cool place, and it made me nostalgic. And I thank you for making me do that one, because lots of cool stuff there. Oh, another one. A famous astronomer by the name of Adelaide Adams, a female astronomer in the 1930s. Her canoe tipped over in the lake, and she died.
Oh, wow!
So But like even then in the 1930s, this was a very popular tourist attraction place. So anyway, love it, and I love New England.
Is that haunted? Is that haunted now as well?
I'm sure.
Astronomer from the lake.
I'm sure.
From the lake. She comes out to the stars every single night.
I do have a haunted story about Squam Lake, and it's personal. You have probably heard of Stephen King.
Yes.
And you have maybe heard of his book and several TV series and movies called The Mist.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's set in Maine, obviously. But my grandmother used to, way, way back in the day, work at these big summer lodges. She was a waitress, and she'd live at the lodge all summer. And she said that one day on Squam Lake, she woke up and they couldn't see anything. This mist had taken over everything, this super thick mist. And when she read Stephen King's The Mist, she knew exactly what he was talking about, because that phenomenon of that unbelievably heavy mist is actually a real New England thing. Mm-hmm. The stuff that happens in that mist, not so much, but the mist is real. So anyway, sandwich.
The mist is
okay.
Very good.
Okay, Craig, we need to react. Yep. Well done, Jeff.
Yeah.
That I'm convinced. Okay, now when I look at the map, I mean, it's clear this is just a beautiful area.
Oh yeah,
especially for nature.
Yep.
So, and Craig, you haven't seen his. Craig doesn't watch as many movies as I do. I love a good movie location.
Fixable.
Yeah, true. Especially when you live in a van.
Yes.
You got to download it first.
The movie On Golden Pond.
Oh yeah,
is when you watch it, it's not a lot goes on. Okay, but first of all, it's a masterclass in acting. Henry Fonda. It is his last performance, and I believe he won the Oscar for this performance. And so all-star acting, amazing acting. But the lake and the cat, it's a character.
Exactly,
it's a part of the movie. It's a character of the movie. You look at that and you're like, oh my God, I want to, this place is as close to heaven as you can imagine when you just look at this beautiful area, this beautiful lake. So when you said On Golden Pond, Jeff, I was like, oh my, this is heaven. This is beautiful.
No, it's Iowa. Just saying.
To be fair, some of it was on, they filmed some of it on Lake Winnipesaukee, but most of it was filmed on Squam Lake because Lake Winnipesaukee is the true huge tourist area of the region. And Squam Lake is kind of its quieter cousin. So the people who don't want to go to the world's largest arcade, which is in Wares Beach, which is in Laconia next to Lake Winnipesaukee, who just want to actually be out in nature and on the pond, which isn't a pond, it's pretty big. This is the place they would go, and that's why they chose it to film on Golden Pond. So, yeah, add that to your list there, Josh and Craig, both of you. I have the sense that Josh needs to do more traveling. I don't know.
Yeah, he does.
He does. So you can believe I've never been to New Hampshire. It's one of those states that I've not been yet. I have to do a trip, the northeastern trip. To that. And here's the thing. I'm going to say one more thing. I want to react to this is I did look up the club sandwich. I looked it up and I'm like, totally unexpected. When you see this place on the map, you wouldn't believe that it's like a nightclub.
Yeah. In the guy's barn.
Like there's folks, it looks like a kind of a folk singer sort of place. So it's really cool.
Yep.
Craig, do you have any reactions to sandwich?
Absolutely, and by the sounds of it, October is the place to the time to visit.
Busy.
Yes, it'll be busy, but I'm sure you'll be finding places there all over the place. Even when you're just driving through the hills and the winding roads and stuff as well, and you see all the actual foliage. To me, it's all about the foliage and the colors and the foliage. So, and yes, Josh, I too I'm missing 2 states, and they are Maine and New Hampshire.
Dude, we got to make a trip. We got to, even if it's just a long weekend, we got to do it.
There's my 2 states I'm missing. So
fly into Manchester, New Hampshire. Manchester. I get my accents a mess. Manchester, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Rent a car, whatever, and take Route 93 up. And there's a bunch of ways to go. You're going to go to Vermont too because I'm demanding it. But you want to go up Route 93 into Vermont to Dartmouth, where Dartmouth College is, Hanover, New Hampshire. It's right on the border. And then you're going to take what's called the air line across the entire state of Maine, and you're going to end up in Calais or Bangor. And then you can go see Stephen King's house. But it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a totally different part of the of the country that it really, I mean, we are very fortunate to live in the United States in the sense that this country has so much variety.
Yeah.
I mean, if you compare Miami to, Seattle, I mean, just the big cities, but they're so very different and everything in between. Anyway, lots to see and do out there.
Absolutely.
So we're going to do our geocache prediction. What are the number of geocaches in Sandwich proper?
Okay, you go first this time, Jeff, because I'm looking at the map, and it is a big area.
It's a big area, but it's mostly woods.
Yeah, but then again, geocachers love woods. You see, that's the thing. And I don't know how many people actually live there in terms of geocachers live there. Yeah, the more geocachers that live in here. So,
yeah, I'm gonna stick with 15. It's a nice round number. I like it.
See, I'm going up to the 100 mark for this one.
Whoa,
it's a big area.
Wait,
yeah,
in Sandwich proper, in the town, I'm talking.
Oh, in the town. Oh, in the town.
In the proper, within city limits.
Yes, which does include a lot of woods for what it's. I mean, it's big.
I'm going 2 then. That's the case.
I'm stick with 15.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to tell where the line for the city is. If you look at Sandwich, if you zoom in, so there's like North Sandwich, East Sandwich.
Yes.
There's Center Sandwich. There's a lot of sandwiches. Sandwich Landing. But if you zoom in on Sandwich, it doesn't. There's zero geocaches.
Wow, in the town proper.
Yeah, there's a little lake outside of Sandwich that has one called Little. It's not a lake. It's a pond. It's called Little Pond. Laughing Trout Pond is the name of the geocache. There's one. I'm guessing. I'll count that. There's one. However, because it's just woods everywhere. The place, everything outside of it, there's hundreds of geocaches. All around in all the woods around there. So, but Sandwich proper, there's one.
Wow.
One in Sandwich proper.
And again, like you said, you can't just travel around the country creating geocaches. You have to tend it. And there's only 1,466 people there. So
that's right. So the percentage of geocaches compared to muggles it's quite low. So
yeah, there's lots of muggles.
Exactly. And I love how Josh. I love how Jeff knows all that terminology too.
Oh, yeah.
He does. Jeff, have you actually found a geocache or two? How many?
Yeah, no, I've found tons. I used to do it quite a bit. Sanibel Island, I think I found. Well, there's so many on Sanibel, but I found at least 40% of them, which is a large number. It's dozens of them. And now they're all gone. The hurricane, that whole island is completely different now. And I found one on my property in Vermont. We had 6 acres up in Richmond, Vermont, and there was a guardrail. It's very hilly, and it was at the top of the hill. And in the guardrail, I found a geocache that I didn't put there.
It's pretty common. That's a pretty common.
That's a common hide.
And there's another one near my other property too. So
normally, sometimes, and I'm not a fan of this as well. But when people attach them to fence lines as well, I'm not a fan of the fence line hides because that is the person's property. So I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, and I was okay with it. Like I don't want people traipsing through my property all the time.
No.
But where this was, I allowed it. But I never found the owner. I never figured out who it was.
All right, now, Josh, we're going to go to the hard one. We're going to
most difficult.
Most difficult. And that did sound quite easy for you. You had a lot of information to it. We're now going across to Oregon. And in Oregon, would you class it as a Unity in Oregon?
Unity, Oregon.
Yeah. Unity.
I have to ask you why you picked Unity, Oregon.
I like the name. Okay. I wanted to pick one out in the west. I wanted to pick one in the middle. I wanted to pick east. So I love Oregon. I just love Oregon in general. Sure. And I did do a kind of a Google search of like boring cities, and Unity did actually come up.
That's how you get to Oregon, right? Because there's boring Oregon, which is home to the Sasquatch Research Center, so it's anything but boring.
Yeah, so I didn't pick boring Oregon.
No, that would have been
for that reason. Yeah, it was too easy.
So Unity is an interesting place because they all are. And after we're done, I will explain how all places are interesting and how you can find the interest. But Unity was settled by ranchers. People. We have this issue here where people somehow throughout American history only means European immigrants. Mm-hmm. People have lived here for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. But the European immigrants started settling in the area in the 1850s. In fact, there's a sod house in some guy's backyard that dates back to like 1848. And if you're not familiar with sod houses, they're just what they sound like. It's a house made out of sod with a roof. It's got a wooden roof, but the side, it's just built out of sod because that's all they had to build out of. If you've seen the movie Dances with Wolves,
yes.
There's a prominent sod house in the features in the story, but there's one of those in Unity, and it's not an historical marker or anything. It's just a guy's backyard. He uses it as a storage shed. And that sets the tone for Unity. Mm-hmm. Unity has a really weird history in that even though they got a post office in 1891, they didn't have a town. Nobody actually bothered to make borders or say this is the town or come up with this plat or anything.
Yeah.
Nobody really cared. They were just getting along their business. But then they cared, and it was for a specific reason. And it was in 1972. That's when Unity, Oregon became an official place, not just unincorporated. And the reason is they needed their water main fixed. And they couldn't get a grant unless they were an official place. So the 75 people who lived there went through the process of creating a town council and getting a mayor and becoming a town. And thus Unity, Oregon was born, and they got their grant and they put in the water, and everybody quit their jobs. The police force, which was like one old guy on a Harley or something, he resigned, and then the county had to take over like it always had. And I've never heard that story before. A town of convenience, a town created just to get public money. But that's what happened in Unity. But that doesn't mean the town doesn't have an identity. People have lived there for a long time, and this was a difficult place to find information on because they don't have the history that most towns have, in that it's not written down. Most towns have an historian or somebody. There's usually a museum in these little towns. There's one in Sandwich. There's one in the county near Bagley, and there's one in the county near where are we? Unity. Yes, I forgot where we were. That's how I am. In Unity as well. But there just wasn't anything written down because there was no official anything. There was, no one was even recording whose land was whose. It was like when the shotgun comes out, you're off your land and on somebody else's land. Ranching community, but also what brought everybody there, why they were there, is because there was a massive sawmill because they were cutting down all the trees, similar to Minnesota. Yeah. Now, if you look at pictures of the air of the region now, Unity has no trees except where people planted them. So there's this downtown with trees, and then there's no trees anywhere around it. Now, a lot of people who haven't spent a lot of time in Oregon think of Oregon as gigantic trees, or they think of Cannon Beach with the big rocks in the water. This is the Idaho part of Oregon. This is Western Oregon, completely different from Eastern Oregon. You've got the Cascades that go down the middle, and they separate the state completely and utterly. Different landscape, different geology, different politics, different everything. And Unity is on the Idaho side. The people who live there are very proud of their heritage. The way I researched Unity was different than I did the rest. I went on YouTube.
Okay.
I went on YouTube and typed in Unity, Oregon, partially because YouTube's search engine is easier to use now than Google, because Google wants to add context to every single thing you type. And so I type in Unity, Oregon, and it's bringing up restaurants in Chicago. I don't want that. I want some, they're always trying to, he lives in Chicago. He must want Chicago stuff. No.
Why would he want to know about Unity?
That's right. It's like the
it's
Unity
a boring town.
Yeah. Anyway, so it is not, though. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. First off, some of that stuff was time-based. In 2017, a really interesting, significant thing happened in Unity. It happened in a lot of places, but it was pretty cool in Unity. Any idea what that was? 2017.
2017. Oh, 2017 in Unity.
And many other places. But starting in Unity and then going somewhere else.
Oh.
Wow, you have me stumped.
For just a few minutes.
The eclipse.
Yes. Unity is right on the path of the totality.
Oh.
Very cool.
Yeah, and being so rural, it was an amazing place to see it. I've watched the photos that people took, and the way it's situated, you can see mountains in the distance, and then there's big flat fields in front, and bird watchers were there. And they knew that the totality was going to be there, and they watched the birds just freak out. I don't know where you guys were for this. Craig, I don't even think you were in the country.
No, I was in Australia.
But if you got a chance to see it, it was amazing because everything turned to night, and the animals were like, what? And all the birds that sing in the night started singing in unity. And for a lot of people who are the lifers, they're doing the life lists for all their birds. They got to see birds they couldn't see any other way because these birds come out at night. So it's difficult to see them, but this was an occasion where it was only night for 3 minutes. So the birds came out, and there's the bird. Write that down on my list. I mean,
you know what? I wonder if it sounded like this.
It did not. I believe it was a warbler of some sort, but yes. And you guys have a kinship with the birders because they're just doing geocaches that fly around.
This is true.
Exactly.
If you ever see the movie The Big Year,
yes,
I love that movie.
I watched that movie. I'm like, these are geocachers that are finding birds. That are
great
movie. Moving. Yeah, it's great.
Same concept. Absolutely. Also, there's some other cool stuff to see there. I'm a big fan of the video game Firewatch. If you have never played that, Firewatch I've played it several times now. There's just something about the vibe, but the story of the game, it's a walking simulator if you're familiar with that term, but the story is that you're a guy who's had some rough times in life and you're just going to go do a job at a fire tower for a few months and sort your shit out. I said shit. Sort your stuff out.
That's
there.
Fine.
Fix your edit there. And then and then stuff happens. And you spend all your time in this fire tower. And so I'm really that aesthetic of the fire tower and the solitude and yet being able to see the whole world, seeing just how alone you are because you can see everywhere and there's nobody there. That whole vibe is present in Unity because they have one of those fire towers and it's huge. They've got this gigantic tall fire tower. It was built in the 1930s by the CCC, and it's next to a ranger station called, not surprisingly, the Unity Ranger Station. And it's in this Cascadian rustic style, which is a particular kind of architecture. Timberline Lodge, if you've ever been there, on Mount Hood in Government Camp, Oregon, where the shining exteriors were filmed for the movie, is also this style. It's a little different. They borrow some arts and crafts stuff, but doesn't matter. It's similar. It's a regional style that's well worth seeing. And the ranger station's open, and you can go inside and visit, and you can stay overnight there. So you can stay overnight in this old ranger station, but I was not able to get clear information as to whether they'd let you stay in the fire tower or not, because there are fire watch towers in the country that you can rent, and that's a cool thing. They also have a really cool Grange Hall there. It's a very big building. It's probably the biggest building in town, and it has this unusual round roof that is, I've never seen a roof like this. In Chicago, we have a lot of buildings with round roofs, like an airplane hangar. This is different. The curve it describes is not uniform. The math of the curve would require some pretty advanced calculus to do, and yet they chose that as an architectural style for this building. And what I'm trying to say here is that Unity is a great place for photographers. There's lots of really interesting things that you can see there. Now, the couple other quick things. It has some weird names. There are 2 rivers that meet in the town, which is probably the real reason people were ever there, is because there's water. That's always, if you go back far enough in time, there's water in a place, except Birmingham, Alabama. That's a whole other story. But no, it is. Birmingham's got a weird history in that. However, we're not talking about Birmingham. We're talking about Unity. Unity, the rivers are named Burnt River, and Job River. Now, Burnt River is a fairly large river in the region. It goes through a lot of different towns, and no one's really sure why it's called that. One theory is that the rocks on the side of the river look burnt because this is a very geologically complex part of the country. There's lots of volcanic activity and yet also lots of sedimentary rocks. So it's like a salad of geology. So I have seen these rocks when I went to Plush, Oregon. On the road to Plush, I saw these rocks, and they look like they're burnt rocks. So that could be it. The other idea is that, well, this is forest country, and whoever named it got there right after a forest fire. And so it was the river flowing through the burnt forest. We don't know, because nobody was there to write stuff down, and they just didn't even care enough to have a town, never mind write down stuff like that. Job River, nobody knows. But why would you name a river Job? I mean, there's the River Jordan in Salt Lake City. That's not too hard to figure out. But Job? And I'm thinking someone had some really tough times.
Yes.
Getting there or living there. Yes. And then they wanted to preserve their faith, so they looked to Job, the most tested man in the Bible.
This is true.
And I'm not a big Bible person myself. I'm not a religious person, but I know Job pretty well. Yeah. And that's the only reason I can think of they would have named it that.
Yeah, Job got sick. His kids all died. I think his wives died. Job had some hard times.
Yeah, he did. I think at the end, just before the end, he's sitting on a dung heap covered with sores. I think that was the denouement of the story before. Well, you'll have to read it for yourself. But and that's all. And that's all I can figure. Wow. So currently, the area it's almost classified a ghost town. It's not quite, because people still live there. But if you look on some lists of ghost towns in Oregon, it will come up occasionally. Not entirely accurate. It's also still a tourist attraction. People go there for amazing hunting and fishing. So this little town of... Oh, I left out the best part.
Yeah. Okay.
Why is it called Unity?
Why?
Because the ranchers did not get along with each other. That's not an uncommon thing among ranchers. You know, their fences are always falling down and their stock is crossing lines. But they needed a post office, and they got together, and they were anticipating, we're going to fight over it. It's got to be the Wilson post office, because my ranch is the biggest, and Wilsons have lived here for 30 years. Well, no, I think McCracken's have the claim to that. After all, we have the best property, and whatever the argument was. They all got down, and some old woman in town who was there just to record the minutes of the meeting or something said, you should just call it Unity, because for once you've all come together.
Oh.
And they were like, yep, the end. Boom. Unity is born.
Wow.
I declare thee unity.
Exactly right. That was pretty much how it came.
Yeah, and in that accent.
Yeah. Pretty practical ranchers. They were just like, we got a name? Everyone agrees? All right, see ya. It's time to go. Meeting's over.
Exactly. I want to get back to my farm, my ranch.
Exactly.
Wow. Josh, what are you thinking? What's your takeaways from that?
Well, the one thing he really, really struck me when he was describing Unity, it has a population of 43 people. Yeah. And you know what? He said they're proud of Unity.
Oh, yeah.
They're proud of their town. And you know what? That's a damn rare thing these days.
Yeah.
See, Jeff, he's still going on with this. He said this when you were on last time as well. He's still, every episode, he's got to get this in. So
yeah.
Well, it's true. I mean, I've lived all over the country, and I live in Chicago. I like Chicago. I have a lot of good things to say about Chicago, but I'm not proud of living in Chicago. It doesn't make any sense to me. I was proud of living in Vermont. Vermont to me felt special, and I really felt privileged to live there. And I grew up in Salem, Massachusetts, which is, tons and tons of history, and I am thankful that I got to have that experience. But it's different than pride. Yeah. I don't know. Pride's a tough word for me.
Yeah, exactly. Josh, how about we do this as well? Because I'm looking at the time. How about we can? No, not at all, Jeff, not at all. How about, Josh, though, we can end this recording now, and then we're going to ask Jeff a golden nugget for our patrons about what to look for in a boring town. What do you think, Josh? Do you like that idea? Just for patrons. Just for our patrons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing about Unity?
Of course.
You just moved on.
How many caches?
I wasn't done. I wasn't. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Go. You weren't going to say that.
Guess. No, guess.
I'm saying 0.
I'm saying 0 in Unity.
That is incorrect. There is one.
Wow. No, that's very
How many?
cool.
There's one. It's right on the lake. Right on the lake. It is within the town limits.
What's its name?
It is called. Just a minute. It's pulling. I gotta pull it up again. It is called in Unity. Oh, there's one right on the river, just outside of town. But it is called the View of the Dam. So there must be a dam.
Yeah,
there is. Yeah, and they dammed up the Job Creek. They dug it out to make it Job River. Actually, a bunch of Chinamen, as they called them back then, came in and dug out the river to make it deeper, and then they dammed that up, and that's where the reservoir is. So, but yes, that's right. I've seen pictures of it. That makes perfect sense. That's where the cache would be.
There we go.
And so here's another thing I learned through this. I hope listeners that you're learning some things. I just learned a travel thing, Craig and Jeff. And this whole idea, I kind of got into this whole fire tower thing because I was like, I want to see what the fire tower.
I've been on fire tower TikTok.
Oh yeah, me too. Totally. I mean, we got them here in Minnesota. I mean, fire towers. I know about fire towers. That's not what I realized. Yeah. The thing that's amazing, I got onto the fire towers, and what pulled up is all these Airbnb fire towers that you can sleep in these things. And it's like the picture, like imagine waking up in a fire tower overlooking whatever you're looking at.
And 360 degree views of forest.
In the sky. I mean, so that's something I might need to seek out is a fire tower, Airbnb or overnight location.
One note on that though, and the van lifers will know about this. The outhouse is at the bottom. So that
good
morning
workout.
when you wake up, you're going to be going down 80 stairs and then coming back up.
Yeah, and we know van lifers because, a lot of them break their ankles and they can't handle it.
We also have ways to compensate for things like that. Exactly. I'll just leave that right there.
Exactly. We have bottles.
Gatorade's a wonderful product.
In and out.
Yeah.
That's a different episode. All right.
Very good, very good. Jeff, mate, before we start to wind up, how can people see you? Where can they hear you? What's happening at the moment with you, mate?
Well, if you want to listen to a podcast of me speaking very quickly about 8 million topics a week, you can find that at Built to Go, a van life podcast on all of your favorite podcast feeds. Most people listen on Spotify, but it's everywhere. I don't care where you listen. And that's every week I will be there. And it's at builttogo.com if you need to actually go to a URL.
That's 2 T's, not one.
Not 2 T's, not 3, not 1. Thank you.
That's right.
That's correct. Thank you.
I told you I listen, see?
Yes, you do.
Craig, we might need to get Jeff to do like a new voiceover intro for our podcast because he's got that down.
He does.
It sounds really good.
Jeff,
it sounds way better than I love to travel.
Exactly. Jeff, I will say one more thing, Jeff, as well. And this is, so Jeff, our intro music, Josh, and our outro music and all that sort of thing as well. I did that through, obviously, with the music gods and stuff as well. Jeff has actually got his son to do his. And,
that's cool.
and Jeff, I'm telling you now, I started listening from the very first episode you did. I miss Sermouge. What's
Sermouge? Yeah, no, wow. So Sermouge, I have two children, both of whom are adults now, and both of whom are musicians. Fisher Wagg is my older son. He has released a few albums. You can find him on Bandcamp and things like that. And he's actually still performing in the Burlington, Vermont area. Cool. He's got a new band called We're Here to Kill.
Okay.
If you need a name, there's a name. But Simon
Wagg, that's it.
More of an electronic musician, and he did all the music for Built to Go. And you can actually, let's see, I think you can go to simonwagg.com and see what he's up to. He got his degree in video game sound design.
Wow.
And you can find stuff there. But his big thing, if you like the music that's on Built to Go, you can find a lot more of it if you look up Sermouge.
Yeah. Because you don't call him Sermouge anymore. And I thought to myself, that's because he's gotten older now and he's outgrown the Sermouge.
He picked that when he was 8. Exactly. I remember because as a Christmas, this is probably too long for the podcast. However, as a Christmas present to my kids back around 2004, I gave them all each their own website and custom domain name. Nice. I told them pick whatever you wanted, and that's what he picked. Sermouge.com.
Sermouge. I like it.
I don't know what it means, but okay.
Well, next time you talk to him, tell him that one of your avid listeners, Mrs. Sermouge, on your podcast, and you got to bring back Sermouge, not just Simon Wagg. You got to bring back Sermouge as well. So absolutely. Thank you so much for having being on the show, Jeff. We do really appreciate you, mate. And as I said, you have been a very highly requested return guest as well. We very much appreciate your knowledge, your skills, and your travel ability as well. Meanwhile, Josh, we're going to record after this now for the patrons. So we've got 2 new patrons though before we go on. I've got to say, we do. David Levine and DT Charlie. Chari? DT Charlie.
Chari. It looks like Chari.
Looks like Chari.
Unless you forgot the L, but it says DT Chari.
I may have. But either way, thank you so
Charlie.
much for the 2 new patrons as well. And if Josh, if people want to, maybe get this golden nugget that Jeff's going to release to the patrons only, how can they do it?
Well, if you've been enjoying our podcast, we really would appreciate your support by supporting us. You help us create better content, keep it free for everyone. No commercials. We don't have any sponsors because we don't need them.
Same with Built to Go. Built to Go is the same. They don't have any
love
sponsors.
That.
I do. It's great. It's great.
I love that. So please consider joining us at patreon.com/treasures of our town.
And Josh, how can people contact us if they want to contact us directly?
Feel free to reach out to us at treasuresofourtownpodcast@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube.
So that's it for our show today. Please subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcasting app. And as always, Josh,
may your travels always lead you to the most unexpected and amazing, boring towns in the United States and beyond. See you next time.
Oh, here he goes. Jeff, thank you so much, mate. Thank you. I appreciate you. I'm just gonna stop it now before he keeps going.
Stop him now.